Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stevanato Group's webinar. Today, we'll be discussing how ready-to-use solutions can meet GMP Annex 1 requirements. My name is Mark, and I'll be your host today from Pharma Demand. So before handing over to Andrea, I'd like to do just a little bit of housekeeping. All questions today will be anonymous. They'll only be visible to you, to me, to Andrea, and to Mirko. But if you do have a question, head over to the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen, pop them in there, and we'll answer as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And if you like any of the content along the way, we do welcome you to use some of the reaction buttons at the bottom of your screen. And that takes me nicely into introducing today's presenters. So first up, we have Andrea Salmaso, Regulatory and Scientific Affairs Manager at Stevanato Group. And he'll be accompanied by Mirko Gabriele, who is a pharmaceutical and innovations consultant. Andrea, at this stage, I will hand over to you to introduce the agenda for today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your presentation. During this webinar, we will cover the following topics. We will shortly introduce Stevanato Group and its product, pharmaceutical industry market trends, the impact of Annex 1 on fill and finish process, the benefit of ready-to-use configuration, a description of EasyFill platform for vials and cartridges, key takeaway, and the question and answer section. Short presentation of Stevanato Group. Stevanato Group produce a pre-sterilized containment solution with the brand of EasyFill. Produce a drug delivery system, in vitro diagnostics, and a medical solution. Assembling, automation, and packaging solution. Visual inspection system and glass converting machine. And in addition, provide analytical testing service and regulatory support. Stevanato Group is a multinational company with more than 70 years of experience, with 19 production sites distributed all over the world, with 3 production sites of a ready-to-use container and 2 technical excellence centers.
So thank you, Andrea, and thanks, Mark, for the introduction. So we are going to deep dive a little bit on the trends and drivers for the pharma market, and then we will jump on the Annex 1 and how it's impacting the manufacturing of aseptic drugs. If we think about the pharma market, it's a growing market, as all of us knows, and we will deep dive a little bit from a financial perspective later on, but there are some key trends that we have to take in consideration and know very well to operate in an efficient way in this environment. If we think about maybe the last 15-20 years, we have seen a change in the nature of the compounds that we are using for treating diseases, moving from small molecules to large molecules, so biologics. And it's connected with these trends that are also impact on the way of manufacturing drugs, because these biologics drugs are in a lot of situations more efficient, and they are dedicated to small group of patients. Also, the batches that we are used to manufactures are reducing. So we are moving from large batch to small batch, because these biologics drugs are usually more expensive if compared with the small one in terms of manufacturing processes, and also indirect costs of manufacturing. The industry is trying to be more and more efficient in what we are doing. There are other trends that are a little bit outside of the manufacturing and the industry, like the needs to move some treatment from hospital care to home care, so giving patients the opportunity to have a better quality of life, especially if we consider long-term diseases with very huge treatment for a lot of months and years, and also if we consider the standard demographic trends of increasing the medium age of people. The way in which the industry is trying to answer on this growth of biologics is also working on platform, just because they are more efficient, just because they are good answer to the needs to concentrate knowledge and manufacturing activities on specific pocket of molecule. Another driver that is quite well known and is impacting the pharma industry is this time to market. As a matter of fact, the development of drugs, especially biologics, is a quite long exercise, and also with a lot of resources to be involved. We have seen in the last 5 and 10 years that the return of investment of this big exercise, so the time that the company has to return of investment, is going shorter and shorter. As a matter of fact, the industry has to optimize this return of investment period, trying to be also in this case efficient in the development part and also in the inputting the drugs on the market. This new way of tackle diseases with the biologics, different kind of biologics and different kind of platform, as we have seen in the first drivers, is calling for flexibility of manufacturing and flexibility of, general speaking, of the processes we have in the industry, and also agility in the way in which we are doing these manufacturing steps, the way in which we are taking decision, or for example, defining our innovation pipeline. Together with this growth in biologics, this time to market that is going to have an impact on the return of investment of the development piece, that is also a sort of concentration of the activities, or being focused on some particular step of the manufacturing, or maybe focusing on development and giving us the opportunity to be the best in manufacturing. As a matter of fact, we see an increase in the outsourcing of activities. Maybe if we try to compare, again, 10, 20 years ago and nowadays in terms of outsourcing, while in the past the major of non-core activities were delegated to others, so were moved to outsource partners. Right now, we are seeing that because of the specialization of the manufacturing activities, the technologies that you have to use, this flexibility and agility that's becoming a must to be efficient in the current pharmaceutical market. Companies are delegating, so outsourcing also core activities, because we have identified partners that maybe have the best knowledge or the best technology to produce efficiently a particular kind of drugs through platform. This is also a way maybe to reduce the investment or to reduce the operating cost of the industry, and is back to the point of the time to market and increase as much as they can the return of investment. But on the other side, moving a product on a company, on a partner through the outsourcing exercise, a company that has the best knowledge or the best technology to manufacture that particular product, is also the best way to guarantee efficiency, safety, and quality of the drug for the patient. At the end, we know that the pharma industry is a very regulated environment. The level of quality expected it's higher and higher, and we have seen it in the last couple of years with the issuing, for example, of the Annex 1 and other related regulations, like also the ICH Q9 new version on the quality risk management. we have touched briefly in the previous slide the trends on the market. Focusing a little bit more on the financial, we know that it's a very interesting market, so growing market with a CAGR of 15%. If we consider the time frame between 2022 and 2027, so it's a quite interesting opportunity also from a financial perspective, with pockets of new drugs that sometimes are belonging to this general concept of biologics, some nodes that are coming more and more on the market. So the next generation biologics, cell and gene therapy, radio drugs for treatment, for example, of the cancers, monoclonal antibodies that are a portion of biologics, and also because of patent expiration in the next year, a lot of biosimilars that are coming on the market. This growing trend, so this opportunity of the sterile manufacturing drug market is not something that we have seen just in the latest 2 or 3 years, but it's something that has been always there. So we can say that it's a constantly growing market, which some challenges or maybe some clear actions to do to be sure that you can properly work in this environment. We have already touched the point of new drugs coming on the market that of course are calling out for specialization, for innovation requirements, for technology and for knowledge to be sure that you can handle properly those kind of product. Because we have seen these products, these innovative products are usually linked with higher costs from a manufacturing and indirect costs. You need to handle it in an efficient way, trying to reduce as much as possible the downtime or breakages or waste in your manufacturing process. So as a matter of fact, being as much as you can efficient in manufacturing, and you need to be flexible. So answering to new products, new platform, it's flexibility and agility on the way you are working. This characteristic of the market, and in particular this characteristic of new molecule coming on the market also requires investment. Investment in terms of capacity, because growing markets means growing capacity, and therefore maybe you have to invest as a firm playing in the sterile manufacturing in new suite or in new sites, or increasing, generally speaking, your network, or also increase your park of partners if we speak about outsourcing. We well know that also the equipment installation and the handling is very well regulated. Therefore, when we speak about investment in the equipment, we are not just speaking about the purchasing of the equipment, but also all the activities that we have to do. So installation, qualification, validation, and proper training and qualification of the employees working on this new technology. We need to work in compliance, and if we have a look at the Annex 1, there are some investment in terms of money and resources and time that we have to invest to be in compliance with the new regulation. And in particular, one point of the Annex 1 is calling out for restricted barrier. If we're speaking about isolator, open ramps, and closed wrap, this means money that we have to invest, new technology, therefore new knowledge that you have to build and make strong in your industry, therefore training and qualification of employees again. If we try to summarize what we have seen right now with a sort of takeaway, so there is an opportunity there, but there is also a challenge. There are difficulties associated with innovation, with the new technologies coming up, with difficulties of the supply chains, and also some challenges in terms of being compliant with the highest standard of regulation, which is a must for us as experts in pharma, but also to be sure that we can guarantee safety, efficacy, and quality of the drugs for our patient. Let's try to move out a little bit of the market and focus on the Annex 1. If we think about what the Annex 1 is telling us in this last 1 year, but also while there was the commenting phase in the previous year, the Annex 1 is focusing, generally speaking, on the quality system that you have to have in your industry. Speaking about pharmaceutical quality system, processes, strengthening, and also is calling for an appropriate proactive way of managing the risk, and not only managing but also identified properly in a proactive mood, and then try to put in place all the mitigation scientifically sounds to be sure that these risks in the manufacturing and generally speaking in the end-to-end process of the drugs are properly under control. The quality risk management, so this identification, mitigation, and continuous follow-up on the management of the risk is linked with the concept of contamination control strategy. So this very important document and somehow mindset that the Annex 1 has introduced as maybe one of the biggest change compared with the previous work before the Annex 1 latest version. As we have already touched in the previous slide, the Annex 1 is also calling for innovation and also in terms of equipment, and also try to reduce the possibility of risk associated with human people working and touching the product. Therefore, is introducing and making very strong the statement of the use of restricted access barrier. Again, in concept of with the concept of the wraps or the concept of the isolator. If we try to move from the definition and descriptions and the requirements highlighted into the Annex 1 to the manufacturer, it means that we have to do our best to understand our process. And when we speak about process, we mean end-to-end, so 360, also involving our partners, our suppliers, in understand how they are manufacturing their products that are incoming raw materials or packaging of our drug manufacturing process, moving this knowledge from an understanding to facts to actions through the contamination control strategy, with the final purpose to identify properly, mitigate, and continually handle the risk associated with the manufacturing of drugs. Also trying to be a little bit more practical on what the Annex 1 is telling us as expert in pharma. We need to identify mitigation, actions, improvement, implementation from everything we are handling in the manufacturing of a drug. So not only in terms of equipment and the manufacturing activities, but also in terms of infrastructure, so the surrounding of what we are using to manufacture the drugs, in terms of production, calling with this concept of flexibility and efficiency. We have already touched the concept of the equipment design, and also, as anticipated before, 360 view, meaning that you have to move out from the exact concept of manufacturing, involving everything that is around the process manufacturing in terms of stakeholders, in terms of peers, in terms of raw materials, and moving your knowledge level also in that particular field. This is why the partnership with the supplier becomes a must. If we consider everything we have said in the last few slides, we can say that as a matter of fact, and easy to understand why, the ready-to-use primary packaging is helping, is supporting in moving to action the Annex 1 and try to identify and mitigate and consolidate the mitigation actions within your industry. Also reducing, and we will see how and how much the risk of contamination and the risk of quality concern on the product that you are manufacturing. Andrea, back to you.
Thank you, Mirko. Which are the benefits of the ready-to-use configuration? The ready-to-use containers simplify the pharma company process. In which way? Eliminating non-core steps such as washing, drying, depyrogenation before the filling. And these steps are historically part of the pharma process. This is a layout, a representation of a typical filling line that use the traditional, not washed, not sterilized vials called bulk vials. And here we can see some critical issue that may arise. For example, glass to glass and glass to metal contact. The heat tunnel can increase a coefficient of friction on outer surface of a vial. And of course, time consuming for no core activities and format change. It means that the use of bulk vials represent a potential risk for glass particles and so contamination, a potential risk to fall media fill, a potential risk of rejection and market recall, and a potential risk for human error and environmental contamination.
Yeah, Andrea, you're right, and I like a lot these kind of slides because they are also very, visual. If you think about the steps that we are removing with the use of ready-to-use vials, focusing on the aseptic filling process, it's easy to understand that removing two steps like the washing and the depyrogenation in your path, it's a way to move out from risk, mitigate those risks and getting efficiency and opportunity. So if we have a look at this reduced risk, of course, the contamination due to the glass particles, you are reducing the risk of failing your media fill because of the less activities that you do upstream. You are reducing the risk of rejection when the project is on the market because of defects that have been generated with the washing, through the washing and the depyrogenation steps. And of course, as you mentioned in the previous slide, less activities means also less opportunity of human error.
And in this case, we can see a typical representation of a line of cartridges, not pre-washed, pre-sterilized cartridges. And also in this case, the criticalities are represented by not good siliconization that can affect cosmetical and performance requirements. The glass to glass and glass to metal contact that can generate cracks and particle contamination, not good crimping that can affect that container closure integrity. And in this case, the use of bulk cartridges represent a potential risk of glass particle contamination, a potential risk of rejection and market recall, and a risk of human error and, of course, environmental contamination.
Yeah, Andrea, so same concept seen in the vials apply to cartridge as well, and maybe even more stronger if we consider the criticalities of washing, siliconization, depyrogenation, and baking of the cartridge. Therefore, also in this case, it's easy to catch the reduced risk associated with less activities because of the ready-to-use cartridge use. Again, reduce risk of contamination because of glass particles, rejection and market recall, so activities link when the product is on the market. Reduce risk of critical defects in crimping quality, which is waste from one side, but is also, quality and safety of the finished product. Human errors, because again of less activities in which there is human intervention, and less risk of failing a quite crucial activity as the media fill.
Even before the incoming step, the packaging of a ready-to-use container delivers a clear advantage for quality perspective by preventing the glass-to-glass contact. In fact, the pharmaceutical production, the friction during the handling can generate a particle along the filling line. Next. Standard containers require washing and depyrogenation before filling, increasing handling and risks. Manual operation and the nozzles during the washing can cause defects such as glass chipping, scratching, and breakage, which compromise drug product integrity. These defects are critical and can impact process and product quality.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. And I think that we can try to recap a little bit on these very important advantages using the ready-to-use solution. So if we think about what we have seen in the previous slides, there are reduction in operations to be done, focusing on washing and depyrogenation. It means that there is a reduction in some pocket of activities that manufacturer has to be done. Sorry, so there are reduction in production time. Easy because you are doing less actions along your line. So the equipment involved and the number of employees that you have to have on the line to handle the equipment are reduced as well. Because we are using less equipment, maintenance, validation, and revalidation activities are less. Less equipment means less maintenance, means less spare parts that you have to have on site to do the intervention on the equipment, and also in terms of the control of the product and control in particular of the single process steps and the environmental surrounding the equipment will be reduced. Last but not least, we are also seeing reduction of the defects generated because of the lack of two critical steps like the washing and the depyrogenation. This is true from an operational perspective, so focusing on the manufacturing process, but it's true that we have also saving and advantages and increasing on quality also if we think about the quality aspect of our job. If we think about the fact that a couple of equipments are not on the line anymore, the number of failure on this equipment will be reduced. Therefore, it means that we will have less quality events like investigation or deviation associated with these two pieces of equipment. As a matter of fact, we will have less control, as we have seen from a process unit operation and from an environmental perspective. We will have less operation done by employees, by personnel, therefore less aseptic manipulation will be done on the product, and therefore we will have less potential risk of contamination. All these activities, all these concepts that we have seen from an equipment perspective and from a quality perspective will make easier the generation and the handling of the control strategy, contamination control strategy that we have seen is one of the most important piece based on the Annex 1 new version. So if we try also to quantify what we have seen in these slides, trying to understand which is this efficiency that we are bringing into our manufacturing process and quality system handling based on some benchmarking and based on our experience. So myself and Giovanni Cosmi, which supported me in the evaluation of those data, we can see that the advantages are quite important. If we focus on the production activities, back to the point that we have at least two equipment and process unit operation less with the use of the ready-to-use solution, we will have saving in terms of FTE to be used on the line. And doing some calculation, this saving can arrive also to the 50% if compared with the number that you need to run a traditional bulk vials line. Less equipment, as we have seen, is less maintenance in terms of extraordinary intervention and preventive maintenance that we have to do, with a saving around 30% of the maintenance cost specific for the line. Also in terms of reduction of qualification activities, calibration activities, requalification activities, we have seen a reduction around 25%. As we have seen, the process control in place can be reduced because of the reduction of the number of activities that you are doing, and therefore there is a saving around 50% medium value in terms of less control of the unit operation that you are not doing anymore. We have touched the point of less defects, because again, washing and depyrogenation are sources of defect that maybe you are identified at the end of the process when the vials are already filled. Therefore, having those two pieces of equipment out of the line is reducing the defects of visible and subvisible cracks and breakage of vials, with a reduction around 25%. This is from a production activities, but there is a pocket of advantages in the use of the ready-to-use solution that is more linked with quality. From a documentation perspective, because each unit operation has to be properly documented and the documentation reviewed, and because we are removing a couple of equipment on the line, there is a saving of around 15-20% of the documentation that you have to review as a part of the batch review of a manufacturing process. While from a quality, we have seen that the level of quality events, investigation, recheck or deviation, CAPA, and effectiveness checks is reduced. And we have seen with this benchmarking that this saving in terms of quality events to be handled can be around 1-2 deviations per week on that specific equipment. Back to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Mirko. But now, which is the EasyFill platform? The EasyFill platform is composed by EasyFill vials. These EasyFill vials are pre-washed, pre-sterilized, and ready to fill containers. The special packaging configuration guarantee no glass-to-glass contact to prevent glass defect during the shipment, during the packaging, and both vials and the special package is in compliance with ISO 21882. The two configuration of packaging for this container is a tray. Tray is compatible with a wide range of aseptic fill and finish process. And in the other case, in the second case, in the second solution, we can find the nest and tub configuration that is compatible with multi-purpose aseptic fill and finish lines. Both solutions can be covered by one or a double protective bag. EasyFill cartridges are pre-washed, pre-siliconized, and pre-sterilized containers. They can be also pre-capped. Also in this case, the cartridges, EasyFill cartridges, can be packaged in nest and tub solution or in tray that prevent the glass-to-glass friction. The tray is compatible with manual and automatic loading, and the nested tub is compatible with multi-purpose aseptic fill and finish lines. Also in this case, they can be covered by a single or a double protective bag. Thank you very much. This is the conclusion of our webinar. Now we can start the question and answer session. Mark, the stage is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea and Mirko, for a great presentation. Really enjoyed the interaction between you both. But on that note, we'll get into the Q&As. It looks like we've had quite a number of questions today, some tagged for follow-up, but we've got about 5 questions that we can get through today. So moving on to question number 1, and this one is for you, Andrea. How is it ensured that even a tub and tray are suitable for introduction into RABs and isolators?
Yeah, as we have seen the last 2 slides, the containers are packaged in a solution, in a double solution, can be in nest and tub and in tray, and they are covered by a single or a double protective bag. The protective bags can be decontaminated in a different way with different methods before to introduce to enter the tub and the tray inside the filling line. Thank you, Mark.
Great answer. Thank you, Andrea. Next question up, and this one is for you, Mirko. In your opinion, what has Annex 1 brought to the pharmaceutical world?
Thanks, Mark. I think that we need maybe a couple of hours more, so I will try to be short on the answer. Well, a lot of things, I would say. Some of those were already known by the pharma expert and the pharma industry. Other maybe are quite new, but maybe I will focus on a couple of them. First one is this concept of knowledge. So according to the Annex 1, we have to extend our knowledge of the manufacturing process. So being strong in what we are doing as manufacturer, but also understanding what the main peer around us are doing. This is why, again, this is this concept of partnership with supplier, because they can support us in understanding how their product, which is in incoming of the product manufacturing step, could impact, could generate risk, could impact the quality of the drug for the patients. It's highlighting this concept of preserving as much as we can the quality of the drugs because of safety of the patients, and in different way, focusing also on innovation. So it's really interesting that the Annex 1 is asking us to look at the market and introduce in our industry any technology that can support this concept of increasing the quality of what we are doing with focus on the barrier technology, or also on the automation in the Lyo steps, for example. All these concepts then are moved to practice and practical suggestion, like the control strategy. So all this knowledge, all this innovation, all this implementation has to be understood well and used for purpose, therefore to mitigate the risk of what you're doing.
Thank you, Mirko, for sharing your abbreviated version of that. Moving on to question number 3. This one is also for you, Mirko. Has Annex 1 changed the way pharmaceutical manufacturers view their suppliers? And if so, what are the new expectations?
Yeah, excellent question, and I think it's connected with what we have just mentioned. That is one of my main takeaway on the Annex 1. So it's changing the view of supplier, because they are not only supplier but anymore, but they are partner. They are doing something that is really important for us. Think about the ready to use. They are making efficient and more in quality the activities that we are doing as producer, but we need to understand well how this primary packaging in this case is done, how is packed, how is moved in our facility, and how we have to handle it properly. Therefore, we need to understand better their area, and the partner, so the supplier, has to bring in the producer their knowledge. So there is a lot of osmosis, I would say. Suppliers are becoming more and more expert in manufacturing drug. Manufacturers are becoming more and more expert in understanding what the supplier is doing. If you think about it, also in terms of relationship, in terms of agreement, in terms of long-term view, the shape of the supplier, I would say has been quite changed by the Annex 1 implementation.
Thank you, Mirko. And
Welcome.
another great response. So we've got a number of questions that are tagged for follow-up. So it leaves us with two more for today. First of those two is again for you, Mirko, and that is looking at what Stevanato Group is doing with its products. Do you think it's the right path from a pharmaceutical perspective?
Well, another excellent question, and my straightforward answer is yes. I'm passionate about innovation, which matters, meaning innovation which is, giving better product to the patient and reducing the risk of any kind of effect, bad effect on patient. If I think about the ready-to-use primary packaging that Stevanato is introducing on the market, they are supporting the way in which manufacturers are working. Link with also all the drivers of the market that we have seen is increasing the flexibility, is reducing the complexity, it's giving the opportunity to mitigate a lot of risks that we see along the line. Therefore, I think that absolutely the answer is yes. So it's supporting what we are doing as drug manufacturer. So the direction is appropriate and the right one.
Thank you, Mirko. Another solid answer, which takes us into the last question of today's Q&A session. And to make sure we're not leaving you out, Andrea, this one is for you. What will be the future evolution of ready-to-use packaging?
It is a great question and not easy to answer, of course. But in my mind, I have one very important word in this moment. It is sustainability. Sustainability is extremely important. So we are working to identify more recyclable and or recycled materials to identify process that reduce the carbon footprint. For sure, this is the goal for the future. Stevanato Group is working on that, and let's see in the next period what will happen.
Thank you, Andrea. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for on today's webinar. As mentioned, we do have a number of questions that remain unanswered and tagged for follow-up, which will be answered in due course. I'd like to end today's webinar with a huge thank you to Andrea and to Mirko for presenting, Stevanato Group for sponsoring, and to everyone who has sat through the webinar and enjoyed it with us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.